Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I have a technique to share, and it's this. If you can see past all the flourishes here, I'm going to call it a double embossed technique because we are using heat embossing powder, and we're also using an embossing folder. So we're going to make our little start here. So the first thing that we're going to take is a piece of cardstock. This it should be 3 3/4 by 5, and I'm going to wrap it in some aluminium foil. This is just ordinary, cooking foil from the kitchen. Nothing special about it at all. I'm just going to wrap it. I'm just going to tuck the corners in a little bit, just so that they don't sort of sploosh out the sides and ruin the square, like that. So that's our starting point. Okay, so and then I'm going to use an embossing folder, and it can be any embossing folder, but I've chosen to use the Parisian Flourish one. I just love all these lovely sort of curly cues. And I'm also using a couple of other products that's in that suite, which is the Parisian Beauty stamp set and then the Parisian dies. And this particular die here is what I've used to cut out my embellishments, and because that's got lots of lovely sort of curly bits, that's why I thought that it would be lovely to have the curly bits in here. So I'm going to be using Versamark, that's my ink, and I'm going to be using the side that I want, this particular side, and that's the side where, if you like, the pattern goes down. So it feels, I'm going to say smooth, but it's not really smooth because it has got a lot of detail in it, but it's smoother than this side, and it's the side with the Stampin' UP logo. All right, so I am going to spread some Versamark on this, and make sure I've got plenty on, and it's easy to take off. All I'm going to do when I finish my video is I'll go and put some dish soap on it and run it under the tap. So I'm going to just place my piece of foil covered card, and I'm going to run it through my Big Shot. So I'm using the plate, and I'm going to use this particular the blue embossing plate, and I'm going to run it through hinge first, and that's because it's quite a thick one, and it I don't if you run it through the other way, it can put a ripple in it and it can actually break the hinge. So I obviously don't want that to happen. I'm just going to run it through. I'm going to run it through fairly slowly, just give it an opportunity for the impression to be made. Set all of that aside. Clear some space here, and just gently lift that off. I mean, that looks gorgeous just as it is, but what I'm now going to do is I'm going to sprinkle 2 different colors of embossing powder. Now this is gold, and I'm also going to use copper. Now copper is actually going to be retiring in a few weeks time. It's now the beginning of May, and it will retire at the end of May. But you'll find that it's actually sticking on the flattened parts rather than the raised parts, and that's because we actually put our Versamark on there, so that's why it's sticking. And then I'm going to go back in with some copper, and I'm going to put some copper on the spots that didn't get any gold, but I obviously still want to have some of the silver foil sticking through as well. So there we go. I think maybe I could just pop a little bit there where my thumb was, see what we get off of there. Okay, I think that's going to be enough. Now I'm going to get my heat tool and the tip of a brush, and I'm just going to melt the piece, the embossing powders into the aluminium foil. And this is going to happen quite quickly because of course the foil is transmitting the heat really quickly. And you can see it turn in front of your eyes. It's almost magic. That's why I love heat embossing. It just is so magical the way it turns. I'm just doing the edges now just to make sure everything has melted, and I think that's that. And you can see, be careful because it's hot, but you can see I've got the gold, the silver and the copper all coming in together like that. Beautiful. Alrighty, so while that cools off and dries, I'm going to just do the little decorative piece here. On this one I use the little stamp that has the it looks like a franking on a stamp for you know, on a letter, and then the other stamp in the set is the fleur-de-lis. What I want to use for this card, I'm going to do the opposite. I have already done my envelope with the little stamp, and I'm going to just get a scrap of vanilla card, and I'm going to use some Versamark and the fleur-de-lis again like that. And then I'm going to do this one, or the one that came to hand was copper, so I'm just going to use the copper. And just give that another little spritz with the heat gun. And I did exactly the same the way on my envelope, and also inside my card on the layer that you do your writing on. I put a little embossed piece in there. Okay. So now I've got my other pieces. So as I said, I did my my inside of my card, and I've just embossed that with a little fleur-de-lis, stuck it inside, and now I've got a 1/4 sheet of Blushing Bride, and this measures 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm going to attach my embossed piece, and I'm going to be using the double-sided tear and tape, and that's because this is, relatively speaking, quite heavy, and snail and liquid glue I just don't think will hold it firmly. And you've probably heard me say on many occasions, one of my biggest fears is when someone receives one of my cards, they take it out the envelope and it falls to pieces. So we're going to make sure we're absolutely not going to have that happen with this card. So I'm just going to take the backing off here like this, and you will need to just gently tease it down because it will lift a little bit, because obviously the tin foil isn't porous. It doesn't absorb there's no fibers to actually absorb the adhesive. Now, as you can see, I've got a little bit too much there, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to flip it back on itself, and I'm not even going to worry about cutting it off. All I do then is get gucky sticky stuff on my scissors. So I just gonna fold it back on itself. Now, I do have a video on how to clean up your scissors if they do get gucky, and I use Goo Gone and just soak them in that for a few moments. So I'm centering it up on my piece of Blushing Bride here. Press it down firmly, and then I've got some dimensionals on the back. Got those popped on ahead of time. Oh, already taken that one off. And then that's going to go on my black card base. This is 11 by 4 1/4. All the dimensions for this card will be on my blog, and you will see that there's a link below this video which will take you to that and to my online store where you can order up some of these goodies. Now, I'm cutting this with a 1-inch circle punch like that, and I've already pre-assembled some of the other pieces. And the first one is I've cut a 1 3/8 scallop circle and a 1 1/8 scallop circle, stuck them on the top of one another, and then there's my piece going on the top there. I'm going to lay that on its side a moment and stick that punch just to hold it in place. I've then got an oval. This is using the layered oval set. It's a piece that I had on my workbench, and if you've been following some of my videos, you'll find that I keep finding things on my workbench that I can't bear to throw away, so I will use it, find a use of it on a project. So we're going to put some dimensionals on the back. I'm going to put one in the middle to stop it from sagging in the middle, like this. And oh, I do miss having nails. They're looking in a pretty bad way at the moment because we are in the middle of the coronavirus at the moment, and all those types of places are shut for their safety as well as for ours. But I do miss having decent nails. And I'm just going to pop that sort of to one side here. And then I've cut 4 pieces using that lovely curly whirly die that I just showed you, and these are going to be sort of just placed sort of there, and I'm making sure that they don't go beyond the footprint of my card like that. And then the last one, let's see, maybe just going down like that. Maybe bring that bit round. Anyway, you can see what I'm doing there. And I'm just going to just use a few glue dots, and I'm just sort of piling them on on top of the pile, if you see my meaning, a little pile of stems. And it doesn't look too pretty at the moment, but once we get our other bits on there, oh, those glue dots really stick well. I'm going to stick another one over there to hold that in place, and then I think my final one I'm just going to stick. Let's see what else is loose here that I could make sure I got caught down. Yeah, maybe that piece. Okay, and then I've got my other piece here, and I put 3 dimensionals on the back, and that was again to help hold all my nice curly cubits in place. So I'm just going to pop that on the top to hide everything. And then I've got a little twist of the gold metallic edged ribbon and on a glue dot there, and I'm just going to pop it on the side, and I kind of thought that that would just give it a little bit of balance. So there you are, a double embossed technique, lots of fun. You can see they're they're slightly different cards, but everyone's going to be different because of the randomness of the embossing powder. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed this technique and this video, and that perhaps you'll go ahead and use the double embossed technique yourself. Well, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Bye for now.